talk about how to build automations, but you really have to think through all the different potential scenarios. Hindsight is going to bite you in the ass for unknown scenario D. I'm going to empower you to make the right decision when that time comes. And this is actually going to be a 3-part video series, and that is because automations are just... this would be way too long and also way too complicated to put it all in one video. So we are going to, as I say all the time, if you've listened to a few of my different videos, we work with the end in mind. So we're going to have 3 parts. The first one is going to be me defining what an automation is built of. There are 3 things that you must think of for building any automation. Once we understand what an automation is, then we get to define the requirements. And there's going to be 3 secrets that I'm going to reveal in that video about the keys to defining requirements for automations and what to avoid, because guess what? I think there's 2 very real ways of learning, what to do and what not to do. And I would also say what not to do are harder lessons learned, but they teach you more. So what to avoid as much as what to do. And then last but not least, how to actually test your automation, how to make sure that it's as bulletproof as it can possibly be, because even I can't escape the whole aspect of hindsight being 2020. But if you follow these 3 videos, I can guarantee you are going to be in a much better place than if you don't. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in and talk about how to build automations. So in this first video, we're going to talk about what an automation even is. So we're not going to look at like your particular circumstance. This video is about understanding what an automation is, what are the parts and components of an automation, how to think about each part, so that in the next video, we can dive into defining requirements, which will then be about, okay, where to look for these things. This is automation, how you think about it. So with that being said, there are 3 components to an automation, and then we'll dive into each one and talk about what they mean. Automation, part 1. First is the trigger. What is a trigger? So a trigger is the action. So this could be manual or the action could be automated, but it is the action that is the trigger that causes the bullet to leave the gun. So a trigger, by definition, is exactly what it sounds like, but when we're thinking in terms of automation, it is just the cause of why something gets triggered. Oh my God. Wow, they thought about that for so long. Anyway, the first piece is trigger. The second piece is criteria. When it comes to building an automation, you have to think about what qualifies or what disqualifies this automation from running. So for instance, say you have an automation built for opportunities, right? So when an opportunity is closed won, so that would be the trigger, it being marked as closed won, then the criteria would say, okay, if it's this type of opportunity, then do that. If it's that type of opportunity, then do something else. Or if it's this other type of opportunity, don't do anything. So criteria is about, okay, now that this has happened, I need you to behave this way or that way based on the criteria. So how do we determine what to do based on key aspects? And for each individual scenario, this doesn't have to be about sales. This could be about nonprofit donations. So for instance, if you want to, okay, so if it's this type of donation, do that. If it's that type of donation, do something else. This doesn't have to be about sales. This could be about anything. So we're talking about automation as a whole, meaning all automation has a trigger. It's not going to do it by itself. Something's got to tell it, go. That's the trigger. The criteria. Okay, so now after that happens, I need, if it's this, then do that. If it's that, then do this other thing. Then you're going to define, okay, how do we determine which path to take once this happens? If you're just starting out and you have very simple business logic, this could be a 1-to-1-to-1. However, once you expand out, and we're going to, we'll talk about this in the second video about planning, thinking and building your automation, preparing with the end in mind kind of a deal. This may be a very simple workflow. This. However, when your business has more than one potential outcome or more than one potential road to go down, more than one potential customer journey, more than one potential product, there's lots of different reasons why your criteria would have to be, pristine for your automation to not make your life a living hell on the other end. Because guess what? If you don't define your criteria correctly, then you're going to have automations running for things you're not actually wanting it to do. And I have some real horror stories on that end. So if you don't define your criteria extremely clearly, the computer, by definition, is just listening to what you told it to. So I always say this. I always say that a computer is really just going to do what you tell it to. So the way automation breaks down is the human element, the human not thinking it all the way through, because a computer is just like 2 + 2 = 4. That's exactly how automation works. So that is criteria. You have to make sure that you've clearly defined when, why, and where things should happen based on what your data looks like, which also brings us to data being clean. That could be a whole series in and of itself. Automation though, we're focused. So trigger, boom, out of a gun. Why are we doing this? Criteria. Once the trigger has been pulled, how do we know which bullet to shoot? Or what are we aiming at? Third part of an automation is outcome. And that is the criteria. So for instance, I'm going to use one of my company's examples in that if an opportunity is marked closed won and it is contract type A, then outcome. I need you to build a contract for opportunities that are project-based, right? So I need you to do this, this, and this for scenario A's. There's also scenario B, a subscription project. So when an opportunity is marked closed won, always the same trigger, criteria, it's scenario B. So the outcome, I need you to do things based on the fact that we are in scenario B, not scenario A, but triggered by the same action. Notice that. The criteria can totally change the outcome. There could also be stacked trigger criterias, meaning when this and this happens, then do that. But that's getting a little complicated in the weeds. I'm not trying to confuse you. I just want to stick to how automation works. So I'm just also trying to prove a point that it can be simple or complex. There's layers. For fundamental understanding though, we need a trigger. Opportunity mark closed won, then criteria. Scenario A, scenario B, or scenario C. That means that if it's this type, my favorite type, scenario C, then you need to do that outcome. As you can see, it's not only really important for you to think through all the different components to an automation, but you really have to think through all the different potential scenarios, because I will tell you, hindsight is going to bite you in the ass for unknown scenario D. Always with clients, what I find, and this was that horror story I'm literally thinking of, in that people think through automation forwards and they really don't think backwards. They don't think, okay, is this bulletproof? Sorry for all the gun analogies, but is this bulletproof? Meaning, does this apply? Is there only scenarios A, B, and C? Is there ever a scenario D? Can anyone think of a reason why we would not use scenario A, B, and C? So with that being said, this is getting a little bit into the teasing of what we're going to do in the next video, which is the tips and tricks for how to design your automation requirements. But I hope this video has served you, and I hope that you understand a little bit more about how automation really even works, or the ideas behind it in general. This is an art, right? Like Van Gogh or whoever painted the fruit. Sorry, not my specialty, but whoever painted the fruit, he painted like a whole bunch of pictures of lots of different bowls of fruit. And I can tell you, every single automation that I've made is a different bowl of fruit. But understanding, by taking this video and understanding what a bowl of fruit even is, you're going to be able to then look at the picture and go, that's a bowl of fruit. Anyway, with that being said, I hope that this video has served you. If you like it, please click that button that's got this thumb. It's way up. And then turn on notifications. If you want to learn more about automation, data management, consulting, how to pick the right consultant, CRM design tips and tricks, I am going to keep posting on this channel because I am on a mission to, I used to call myself the wizard behind the curtain, And I am coming out from behind the curtain because I can tell you firsthand from having worked with clients, the most difficult part of my job is that, as a Salesforce consultant, is that the people that I'm consulting don't understand what I do. Like, fundamentally, they don't understand what I do. I sincerely hope that you've enjoyed this, that you've learned something, and had a little fun while doing it. So I will see you on the next one, specifically part 2 of requirements. How do we then take what I just said and build a requirement for you? So I will see you on the next one.